The interesting thing about Sadhguru is he doesn't have these kind of sexual innuendos, or it doesn't seem that he has any sex scandals or anything in that direction. You could say Osho didn't have that as well in a way, but everybody knew how the sannyasins, how they lived from day to day and how they expressed themselves. It was very radical. It was very um exuberant in a way. It was very extravagant, and it was very intense. Whereas Sadhguru goes more like for the mystical part of yoga and the transformation of your life to joy, happiness, and peace. And Osho, of course, wanted to do the same thing, but it was also a different time. We shouldn't forget it was a different time, but there was a lot of controversy. For example, why would he need, these many Rolls Royces? On the same hand, though, Sadhguru doesn't disagree with materialism. He also uses quads, motorcycles, and all of this stuff. And now he's creating a yoga village in the U.S., where people can live in on a more conscious way. So Sadhguru is creating a village in the U.S. where people can buy real estate, also rent real estate, and building it right now, and then you will be able to live in a kind of very conscious yogic compatible way in the United States. I have to check which state they're building this in. I forget it. And I don't know if they're building more than that, just this yoga village. I think it's the first one that they're building. And I think if it becomes really successful, I could imagine that he does more of those. Now, this could be interesting because Sadhguru, in a way, is much smarter than Osho was in one way, because he's not creating controversy and people accept Sadhguru much more than Osho. Like it was a different time, so keep that in mind. But um, because Sadhguru is not as controversial as Osho, he is able to over time have a reach that goes further and further and further and further, whereas Osho basically was creating a lot of kind of ideological enemies because he was doing it in a very conservative place. I think it was in Ohio or Oklahoma, I don't remember, or somewhere there. And people would clash with the local community. Sadhguru doesn't have that because it's not such an ideological movement in a way. I think the Osho movement was in a way ideological and a little bit dogmatic also. Actually, a lot dogmatic. Dogmatic in the sense that the people that went to Osho really believed it's the only truth and all of this. Whereas Sadhguru is more like slowly changing your life with yogic practice, with your sadhana, and living together and creating a harmonious relationship with nature. Also, Sadhguru is very much for nature. He's also so there are big differences between Osho and Sadhguru clearly, and I think that Sadhguru will have in his lifetime, because he won't be poisoned by anyone, or he won't be, nobody's going to try to remove him. Nobody's going to ever try to, kill people in his community, something like that. So I think, which happened with Osho. If you don't know, you have to watch the documentary. Wild Wild West, I think, is the documentary. And I think it was on Netflix. It's a very good documentary if you want to learn about Osho. And then you had Sheila, the crazy girl that went to, then to Switzerland. And in the thing is, of course, like I said, it was a different time, but they had different kind of plans. Sadhguru is not trying to overthrow the United States. Osho kind of wanted to do that. Osho wanted to change the United States from the inside. He wanted to create such a big community. He basically they had plans to have hundred thousands of people there eventually, and it had this aggressive stance, and so people were afraid. The government then was also afraid, and all of that stuff. Whereas Sadhguru is just creating a village of, let's say, normal Americans that do yoga. or people that want to come there and do yoga, and thereby the gradual process of change happens by itself. So it's not a dogmatic kind of almost religious, thing. And uh and this is going to be super interesting. So I think in Sadhguru's lifetime, he will probably have a stronger and bigger impact than Osho ever had. But there's a lot of Osho fans, so and there's a lot of sannyasins, and a lot of them ex-sannyasins also, and a lot of people that actually knew Osho, or people that were there. It's not that far. It's not that long ago. It was, I think, in the 80s also. So 70s and 80s. So I think that they have a different approach and they have different goals, and I or had he had different goals. But I think Sadhguru still has a lot of time left, and he looks like he has a lot of vitality, and I think eventually he will have a bigger impact. Now there's another thing which we shouldn't forget, that now everything gets diluted a lot because there's so much information. You have Sadhguru with his Isha Foundation. At the same time, you have 100,000 yoga studios all over the world and yoga teachers, and there's coaches all over the internet, YouTube, Instagram, you TikTok, and so it gets diluted a little bit. So even if you had an Osho today, it would also get that kind of dilution, just like Sadhguru has. But there's a huge demand for people to have a spiritual meaningful life, and it seems almost like the only person who truly fills the void are people like Sadhguru, Bashar, Mooji, Rupert Spira, um, and there isn't that many. Then you have the kind of the charlatans almost, which is like the Bettino Massaro, the Til Swan. They're not like purposeful, maybe charlatans. Some are more purposeful than others, on doing it on purpose. But it's like they don't have the deep mystic knowledge and understanding of spirituality. And but they dilute it a lot because a lot of people are not interested in the deeper mystical, truly mystical part of awakening and kundalini yoga and all of that stuff. They're just interested in sound bites that fix their life as quickly as possible. And so it's super super interesting, to compare and look at, in my viewpoint, what these teachers are doing, what these coaches are doing, and who has what kind of impact on people out there, on the souls, on society. And I haven't been to India, so I can't say what impact Sadhguru has on the Indian continent. Um, but when I speak to people about yoga, everybody knows Sadhguru. So he is definitely like a beacon or a lighthouse for people that see yoga as a positive movement, which it is, and they feel kind of supported by him also, because otherwise it would be like a fragmented world of yogis and yoginis all over the world without much support. But if you have someone who is like almost like a spokesperson for yoga, like Sadhguru, you feel like there's a power behind it, in the sense like, I do yoga. You know Sadhguru, right? Oh yeah, I know Sadhguru. Yeah, and it's like he's that kind of like, he's literally, he isn't that much of a spokesperson for spirituality, as more he's like a spokesperson for yoga and the mystic aspect of yoga, and he gives it credentials. Yeah, people give it more credit basically, and that makes it very interesting. So anytime I speak to someone about yoga, people are like, "Yeah, Sadhguru, yeah, sure." And although they might not have done, Isha Foundation or something, and so this is going to be super super interesting. What happens with the yoga city? And to be quite honest, I could imagine myself living in a yoga city like that, but not in this not at the place that they're building it at, which is in the US, because I would never go to the US. But we can check. Let me activate internet here and see where they're actually building that city. We just could put in Sadhguru Yoga City. Go on Google and put in Sadhguru Yoga City. Uh, Sadhguru's plan for a yogic city in Tennessee. So he's gonna be doing it in Tennessee. Which I think Tennessee is pretty conservative as well. So there is literally a plan for a yogic city in Tennessee, and it looks huge. So I would be more interested if it was like in Costa Rica or Mexico or something like that. But I guess it's much easier to build in the US for many reasons. And it's kind of almost like stepping in the footsteps of Osho. And if he can make it succeed, here I see Nashville right now, Tennessee. Oh, I never realized that Tennessee is actually next to it's like Sadhguru works with the system. He's promoted heavily by mainstream authorities with the review of closure. Yeah, that's true. And I mean he was pro vaccination in a way, but that's not what I'm uh hinting to. I think this is not so important in the sense like I mean, it is for important for people who got vaccinated because Sadhguru said so. But it's not important in terms of like yoga, because no matter how much he's being promoted, he's still promoting yoga. So he's still promoting awakening, Kundalini yoga, all of that stuff. So, and to be quite honest, I doubt I'm not sure. I think he's a little bit naive with what happened with coronavirus, and I think he was kind of forced to do this. Um, I think he was kind of forced to do this in India because otherwise Modi would have probably gotten rid of him if he had said, don't vaccinate or something. I'm not sure because he's smart. He knows a lot of stuff. So it's not like he didn't know about the vaccines. I'm not sure what his thing is there, but it's interesting that he's building a yoga center in Tennessee instead of, for example, in Mexico or Costa Rica or Brazil or something. It's really, really, really interesting. And maybe that's what you're saying. It's somehow connected, but yoga is yoga. There is no dark yoga. There's no bad yoga. Um, the more yoga you do, the more you become aware and conscious. So I don't think you can really put him into the bad. It would be interesting what Osho would have said to vaccination. I think he would have been against vaccination. I think Osho would have been. He was definitely more radical. He didn't have a soft approach. I think he would have been against vaccination. Hard to say, but I'm pretty sure. So it is definitely interesting. Um, and you were about to say you were surprised Tennessee's next to something. Yeah, I was just surprised that it's the center of the U.S. I don't know the U.S. map that well. So it's north of Alabama, south of Kentucky. It's basically next to North Carolina. I thought it was more like in the direction of Oklahoma. And a little bit more south, so more like next to Louisiana or something. I didn't realize Tennessee is up there. Interesting. Uh, so it's kind of like the center of the east side of the United States, and that he picked it as the first place to build a yogic city. But building a yogic city, I'm pretty sure it's gonna take a couple of years, and it's not gonna be in 1 year, I guess. I don't know how fast builders work nowadays, and the permissions and everything, and maybe they picked it because they get so quickly the permissions and everything. I don't know, but it would be interesting if then he expands and builds some more yogic cities because that would be then a true legacy. Imagine yogic cities like 20, 30 yogic cities all over the world that were initiated basically through Sadhguru. And if it was in Costa Rica or Mexico, I would be like, I'm coming. I'm gonna live there. If you give me fast internet and yoga classes and yogic women, yoginis, I'm like I'm going. Yeah. I would literally like immediately buy something there and book there and just go there, but not Tennessee. So it's interesting that he picked that area. Probably because of the that it could be built the cheapest way. I don't know. I have no clue why Tennessee. Or maybe it has something to do with the ley lines, or maybe there's some energy spot there. Who knows? Would be interesting to figure to learn more about this. Why Sadhguru picked this? You know what I would love at some point to be so famous or have such a far reach that it would be easy to get people like Sadhguru into a podcast. I would love that. That would be awesome. Um, I think I would have interesting questions and interesting conversations with all these people. And even with Teal Swan, I have a podcast with Teal Swan and with Deepak Chopra and all of these, and really like dig deep. I mean, but it's their business to look cool, so I don't know if they would be open to it. Maybe eventually, the channel will grow, and especially after we have 1,000 subscribers here, the channel's gonna grow much, much faster. So I'm looking forward to that. And my ex-girlfriend writing me. It's very, very nice to get along with my ex-girlfriend now this way, without, trying to make it something that doesn't work. Um, so I wish you a nice time, and when something new comes up, I'm right there.